You don't feel misused or underused?
No, I don't. I am very, very excited about the work that we have accomplished, but I am also absolutely clear-eyed that there is a lot more to do, and we're going to get it done.
Finally, has President Biden told you whether he's going to seek re-election in 2024?
What President Biden and I started our day talking about, as we normally do, is bringing in members of our intelligence community to review the presidential daily brief and talk about classified information around threats to our national security and hotspots around the world. After that, we had another couple of meetings, and then I went over to the Capitol because I'm the president of the Senate and broke a tie vote there, and we are focused on implementation of the bipartisan infrastructure deal.
So you're not discussing 2024 yet?
Absolutely not.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much for your time.
All right, guys, so as you can see there, that is George Stephanopoulos pressing Kamala Harris on the rumors that are swirling around about there being beef between her team and Biden team in the White House, right? As he's asking her, do you believe that you're being misused, right? Or underutilized in the administration, right? They're not using Kamala to the best of her abilities. Now, again, this follows reports of, again, there being tensions between her team and the Biden team in the White House. Now, the response to this by some other people in the mainstream liberal media in the Kamala stands is that this comes from a place of sexism / racism, right? That all the criticism of Kamala Harris is not over legitimate issues, not over legitimate concerns about her and her qualifications to actually be in the office that she's in. It's purely just racism and sexism, okay? So I'm going to play this clip of Jen Psaki essentially saying that is racism and sexism, and also a clip of a Kamala stan, Miss Reese Colbert from Black Woman Views, who went on record to tell us her ideas in terms of why Kamala is receiving so much criticism.
You took to Twitter this week to defend the most prominent woman there, the vice president, after there were stories about her this weekend that mentioned low approval ratings, allegations of staff problems. Some of her allies have attributed this to sexism. Do you think she is receiving more criticism because she's the first woman of color to serve as vice president?
Yes. Criticism from the outside? Absolutely. I do think that it has been easier and harsher from some in the right wing who have gone after her because she is the first woman of color.
Okay, y'all, I figured out where this deluge of anti-Kamala hit pieces is coming from. People are purging right now. They're releasing all of this racist pent-up energy they've had now that their boy Trump is gone. They didn't know where to put it. They didn't know how to let it out. But now they're feeling emboldened. Now they have their cause. They won in Virginia. They got Kyle Rittenhouse. He's having a how to get away with murder trial. I don't know how the hell a white man killing two white men makes him a hero. But he's their hero, and I don't get involved in white or white crime. It's not my business. But now they're feeling themselves. They're letting their Klan flag fly. And we know that there is nothing more intimidating, more irksome than the existence, just the mere presence of a powerful Black person. And Kamala Harris is the highest ranking Black person in this country, the highest ranking woman ever. And they can't stand it. They hate it. But now they feel like they're in a position to where they can release that anger. You have Democrats that are on that boat too. You have some Democrats mad as shit, resentful, actually probably would have preferred for Trump to be president than for Kamala Harris to succeed. And they just know, well, if that Black bitch could have won, then I know my white is right person could have won. Well, we'll never know, bitch. And they would not have. Then you have shrimp motherfucker Tucker Carlson and people like him who's sitting up there running Kamala's facts every time we turn around. Why are you doing a whole segment on who she was dealing with decades ago? Facts is like Equifax. After 7 years, shit is expunged. It does not exist. This is a happily married woman. She ain't thinking about them people. They ain't thinking about her. Stay the out of her draws. Then you got all these people who nobody would even look at and say boo to, talking shit about her personality. It's like, oh, they hate how she laughed. One person say she was weird. And I saw this motherfucker. You're weird. I guarantee you, nobody is looking at your goofy, corny ass. Nobody says, hey, look at that goofy white boy on the street. Let me see what he has to say about anything in life. So take all those feelings of inadequacy and resentment and anger and my life sucks that you have and go take it to the altar or go take it to the therapist. Because guess what? Vice President Harris is going to continue to be vice president and she ain't going nowhere.
All right, guys. So here's the thing. I'm getting so tired of this super lazy line of arguments where people try to say that any criticism of somebody that is a so-called person of color or a part of an oppressed minority group is a racist, sexist, homophobic bigot. Right? It doesn't matter who it is. If you simply criticize them, even though most of the criticism is policy related, it's still racism / sexism, right? And they do this, guys, because it's lazy, right? It's easy to just accuse people of racism / sexism. It can't be because Kamala has utterly failed at the border. She is the border czar. And she has absolutely failed. It took her months to visit the border while we was in the middle of a record crisis, right? A record-breaking crisis. We had an unprecedented amount of people crossing the border, and it literally took her months to go, right? Matter of fact, she didn't want to go until Trump decided that he was going to go, and then all of a sudden she was like, okay, I'm going, right? I'm going to the border because I want to make sure I get there before Trump. And other than that, instead of visiting the border, she was doing other things like, going to gay pride parades, going to Central America, going to their border, right? Visiting them. And I don't think that was necessarily bad that she was doing that. It was just bad that she didn't go to the U.S. border before or even immediately after that, right? We had to beg and plead her to actually give a damn about what's going on at the border, right? It can't be because of policy, according to these people, right? It can't be because she has literally and utterly failed, okay? She said that she was one of the last people in the room that Biden consulted about Afghanistan. Look what happened with Afghanistan. That was an utter disaster. She has to take responsibility for that, right? She said she was the last person in the room. If she was so qualified, why didn't she tell Biden, hey, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea for us just to pull out our military, right, and leave all our weapons and our equipment there just for the Taliban to take it over and then take over the country, right? If she was so qualified, she had so much foresight, why is it that the decisions and the things that she's involved in that we know of, it seems like has been an utter disaster, right? Now, is all of that Kamala's fault? No, because a lot of it is, handled by Biden himself, right? Maybe not even Biden himself because he's a puppet, but whoever's pulling Biden's strings, which obviously isn't Kamala, in my opinion, at this point, they're also partially responsible for it. But however, because Kamala is a part of the administration, yeah, she has to take blame for those things, okay? And even if you look at some of the things that the leftists agree with, such as the voting rights stuff, okay, she hasn't even accomplished anything on that. Democrats haven't accomplished anything on police reform. All the things that the Democrats said they were going to do, they haven't done. And the piece of legislation that Biden has passed, which, could be good or bad, I've made the argument that we probably really don't know for sure until the future, she had nothing to do with, right? She had nothing to do with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. She had nothing to do with Biden's Build Back Better plan, okay? So, when people criticize Kamala, most of the criticisms of her is simply off the fact that she's just failed. It's all policy oriented. I have not seen people on the right criticize Kamala because of her race. They say, oh, we hate Kamala because she's a woman, right? Because she's black. And it just goes to show how a lot of these people, guys, don't really understand the right, and conservatives. Conservatives don't really care about your race, right? For example, when Tim Scott gave that speech, right, as a response to Biden's joint address to Congress, after that speech, everybody said, oh yeah, Tim Scott would be a great president or a VP, right? Conservatives embrace people based off their policies. It doesn't matter what their actual color is, okay? We've seen this time and time and time again. Was Herman Cain not a serious contender for president at one point? Was Ben Carson not a serious contender for president at one point? The right has embraced Winston Sears, who is the lieutenant governor-elect of Virginia, right? A so-called woman of color. The right also, at one point, embraced Kristi Noem, who's also a woman. Now, there's some conservatives who have soured on Kristi Noem, not because she's a woman, but because of her policies, right? Because she folded on some policies, specifically when it comes to protecting women's sports, that conservatives didn't like. And that's the way politics is supposed to work. We're supposed to like you based off your policy positions, not based off your sex, your gender, or your race, or your sexuality, or any of that stuff. And for the most part, that's what conservatives have done, right? I mean, even at some point, right? I know a lot of conservatives really didn't like Caitlyn Jenner, but at one point, you know, when Caitlyn first announced that they were running for president, people say, okay, we might give Caitlyn a chance. So again, this criticism of conservatives and people saying that, well, you know, they only dislike Kamala because she's black and they don't want to see black people in position of power, in my opinion, is absolutely untrue. And it shows that a lot of these people are just ignorant in terms of what actually goes on in conservative spaces. You know, time and time again, I've seen conservatives embrace people who are not white, right? They embrace black people who are in position of power as long as they agree with them on the policies, which is how politics is supposed to work. And also what I find fascinating is how all these accusations of sexism and racism are coming out, but Kamala was disliked even before she became vice president. During the Democrat primaries, she was disliked. Okay? Her own party did not like her. Her own party did not like her personality. She just came off as a fake person. Right? This is the same party that nominated Hillary Clinton. So again, I'm not saying where the racism / sexism is coming from that these people are talking about. But we all know what it is. It's simply if you don't like somebody or if you don't agree with somebody on the left that happens to be a person of color or, you know, a woman, oh, you're a racist, you're a sexist. Because that's the easy way to try to avoid talking about the policy failures of Kamala and the Biden administration. It's an easy way to distract from the real issues. And this really bothers me, guys, because there are real instances of racism / sexism that happen in this country that we don't talk about and gets taken less seriously because the term racist and sexist is just thrown around all the time. Everything is racist, everything is sexist, which makes it so any accusations, right, of racism / sexism that are actually real, that actually have merit, are not taken seriously. And that's what really bothers me about the mainstream liberal media and some of these people on the left who every single time somebody criticizes them or somebody they like that happens to be a person of color or, you know, a woman, they're sexist and racist. You're really just belittling people who actually go through real instances of racism / sexism in this country. Okay? The fact of the matter is that Kamala's just not a very likable person. Her approval rating is lower than Biden's approval rating because it's not just people on the right that don't like her. It's also people on the left that's just like, we're not really feeling her. It is what it is. It is what it is. Does that make them racist and sexist? No. It's simply, in my opinion, majority of it is that she's just not, one, a very likable person, okay? And two, she hasn't done a good job in her position. And three, she wasn't even qualified for the position in the first place, right? She only got the position because she's a so-called woman of color. That's it, right? She only got the position because of identity politics. What about Kamala makes her qualified to be president or vice president? Because she's only been in Congress for a few years. Now, she was Attorney General of California, and even people in California didn't like her, right? When she was Attorney General. They didn't like her. So people in her own state didn't like her beforehand. Are people in California racist and sexist too? The most liberal state in the union? Are all those people racist and sexist? Right? Again, I just wish some of these people, man, you know, would take time to actually sit down and reflect on why people don't like a certain person, right? Rather than always trying to accuse these people that don't like certain people as racist and sexist, right? Even I can sit down and understand why people don't like Trump. Yes, I understand why people don't like Trump. There's people that don't like his personality. There's people that don't like his policies. But I would never come up here and say people don't like him because he's a white man. I would never say that. Because one, I don't have any evidence to suggest that people don't like him just because he's a white man. And two, that's just lazy. You don't have to actually do any real analysis or really any critical thinking to just throw out those labels and accusations. This stuff right here, it really is frustrating when you hear this stuff because it's so lazy in my opinion when people do this. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.